This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're ready. Well, thank everybody for coming today. We have a really great program. This is our summer series of social media and your online presence, and we have really great speakers today. This is a panel discussion, and we want you all to participate as well. Our leader is Mr. Scott Bowyer, who is the Executive Vice President, excuse me, of Commercial Bank of Texas. He's also the Vice Chairman of the NITCO Board, as well as his most recent, the last few years, involvement in the entrepreneurship group. And he has led several of these panel discussions, and so this will be a great time for you to have experts that have been there, done that, and have done a great job to ask them questions. We have Josh Burch, who is the president and owner of the East Texas Truck Center. We have Taylor Bradford, who is the president and general manager of the Porch Distillery. And then you have, and I haven't been there yet, but I plan to go. And then we have Jennifer Gage, who is the marketing coordinator for Axley and Rody. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and it's your go.
Thank you. I didn't know if we were going to have to disclose whether we've been to the distillery or not. Those kind of meetings. Thank you, Mary Frances, and appreciate all of you today, and thanks for having us, and I appreciate the chamber for putting this together. We do have a good group today. I'm just kind of here to facilitate because I don't know anything about online presence other than that I go to all their websites and social media and y'all's too. But I want to introduce them in a little more depth or kind of let themselves do that some too. But I think it'd be good, I know, for our panel to know who you are and the business you represent or the business you own or whatever role you're in. So I'll certainly pick on the person who just stuck pizza in their mouth if I can find that. But Rick, you want to start? Just kind of introduce yourself. Kind of who you're going to. That's right. I'll let you watch it down first, and maybe just a little something about your business or what you do.
I'm Rick Gray with the Daily Sentinel. I'm the publisher there with a local newspaper. Also have our website and media presence there too.
I guess we just kind of work around.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Adams, and I'm the marketing coordinator for Gage.
Mary, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm Mary Montiac with the Piney Woods Apartment Association. I'm their association executive, and I call on others to do the social media, but I'd like to know what they're doing. And so,
I'm Morgan McCrory with Coordinating Media, a local marketing and advertising agency around here. And we do manage a lot of social media accounts and websites.
Okay. Well, that will circle back.
I'm Stephanie with Bowyer State Bank. I'm the marketing director of one, and we have 7 branches, and I'm posting a lot of social media.
Okay. And then, Casey, if you want.
I'm Casey Roster. I work with NITCO, and I do actually run our social media. So I'm learning today too.
Carl Earl, DMC Marketing, full service and advertising consultant. Great, we do.
Great. Glad y'all are all here. And like I said, this what we want to do. We're going to talk, and these folks are going to talk. But this is the best value of this is just conversational too, interaction, and making sure we're hitting what you want to hear, what you want to know, what questions you have. So we'll start with a few things, but then, like I said, we want to hit what you want, and so don't hesitate at all to just speak up and ask a question. And so I'll ask the panel to kind of introduce themselves, tell what their business is and what they do, and then we can kind of roll from there. Josh.
My name is Josh Burch. I'm the president of East Texas Truck Center. We have a location here in Nacogdoches as well as Baytown, Texas. Also have a finance company, rental and leasing. So marketing is how we get out, and it's all nationwide through our marketing.
Taylor Bradford. I'm the president and general manager of the distillery in Nacogdoches. We just have one location right now. Maybe in the coming years, we'll be expanding out to other places. So right now, we are in regional distribution, not statewide yet. We're just focusing on an outer reach growth, slow growth too, because extreme growth is kind of intense, and we went through an extreme growth probably between years 2 and 3, where it almost killed us because we grew so fast. So I will let Jennifer introduce herself.
Jennifer Gage, I'm the marketing coordinator for Axley and Reddy. We're an accounting services firm. And our primary, what we're trying to do marketing wise is really just brand awareness, brand presence. We've got a real good history in the areas we serve, which is pretty much all the way up Texarkana down to Beaumont. And we just want to make sure that when people are ready, they know what we do and they know who we are and they can visit us.
Great. I want to talk for a minute to each of you about more of what you use in your business. Because this, again, kind of online presence is certainly website, Facebook, Instagram, whatever Casey and all the cool kids use, that are younger than some of us. But, talk about that a little. And Josh, I'll start with you in your business, so that the audience kind of knows the tools that you use a lot. What do you use from a standpoint of those kind of tools?
That's a good question. So we traditionally started with your basic web page. And the thing about marketing that I'm finding is really interesting, it's evolving very quickly. So where in 2014 to 16 range, if we were having this conversation, the answer would be, I'm on webpage and I'm on Facebook. That's where I'm at. In 2017, 18, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, webpage, Twitter, and now we have TikTok, and YouTube. And people have really started hitting the YouTube stuff extremely heavy. So our marketing has changed where it used to be pictures and small content posted on Instagram, which you could also put on Facebook at the same time. And they'd almost be a mirror image of each other. Now we're going to YouTube videos, creating larger content. And from that content, we're breaking out and putting this part of this clip in a 20-second deal on TikTok, and this part of this clip on Facebook, and this part, which is just the picture or whatever, through Instagram or through Twitter. So the answer is we use every social media platform at this time because every one of them is being utilized by a different group.
And a totally different type of business. To kind of talk about what you use a little.
I would agree with Josh on the evolving, like, what are we going to see in the next 2 to 3 years? What's going to be the trend there? So we have shifted our focus, and my little sister, she's younger than me. She knows TikTok. I feel like a dinosaur at this moment. She is starting to utilize things like that and help with our social media because we are growing, it isn't a one-person job anymore. And in the past where we've used interns, now I can see where it would help us for success in having an intern help us with social media. So utilizing that. But right now we use all of the basics that Josh said. We have a great web page, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We have one print ad, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with print ad. But print ad, the return on investment is so hard to gauge. You cannot gauge that, and I hate that. I hate that I can't, unless you put a coupon in there to come in, and that has its pros and cons too, So I think that as the next few years go by, we'll see the next trend. It probably won't be TikTok anymore, but things like videos do catch people's attention. So.
Jennifer, and again, we have 3 very diverse businesses to talk about today. So talk just from the accounting firm standpoint.
Well, from accounting firm standpoint, I've only been with the firm for about 1.5 years, and prior to me coming on, they had no real social media presence whatsoever. They had no Facebook, they had no Twitter, they had no Instagram, they had people on LinkedIn, and that was probably it aside from our webpage. And so one of the things that I've done is just gotten us out there, and I use Facebook, I use Instagram, I do post on Twitter mostly for the SEO value, but I don't think anybody really goes to Twitter for accounting advice. So it's sometimes, you know, you want the handles and you want to like get your branding consistent. And so you may go ahead and grab things that you're not going to use just so that way somebody else doesn't come and snap it up from you. But you know, our website's going to be, you know, with our blog is going to be kind of the main informational point for most people, because being that we're financial services, basically, I mean, people shop for that totally different than they do retail or, you know, even, you know, the type of things that he sells. And there's like a level of trust with accounting and accounting services that we have to kind of watch how we market that to people. So we don't really do TikTok because even, yeah, I mean, not to say that a few accounting firms haven't tried it, but that would be more on the cultural end as opposed to maybe the selling side of accounting services. And that's kind of how I've broken out our social media presence. Is LinkedIn is very knowledge based. That's where we want to be, you know, like providing information to other business leaders to say, hey, look, here's some useful tax information, or here's a law change, you know, things that they'll find value in. And then where I use Facebook and Instagram is mostly to show our culture. So when people come to work for us, they can kind of look and see that we're humans too. You know, oh, they actually do go out, you know, and socialize. They don't just stay behind a computer screen and do our taxes for us. So I think, you know, like Healer even said, it's constantly evolving and what's the next thing. But video, you know, I haven't gotten into video, but I think that's going to be my next play, but that's a little bit more involved. And we've got some other things on the table we're trying to do first. So.
Well, I think some of the, I mean, knowing your audience, but also knowing your staff or your business and banking and accounting, sometimes it's a little, in some ways, a little more stiff, you know,
Yeah.
than what they do, but it all has its place. So I've got several places to go with this conversation, but like I said, we want to really know what's driving you and what questions you have, because there's a lot of differences in the audience of what your type of business is. So somebody, you know, be brave and kind of jump in with what you utilize, maybe what some of the challenges are. And I'd love to hear somebody jump in. Okay.
So what have y'all found more successful? Is it more personal posts about employees and just that social side, or the more sales posts?
I'll go first. I see the most engagement on the things that we do about our people. Like, honestly, especially on Facebook, because, you know, when we do meet the team, like, hey, we just hired so-and-so, those will get more engagement than here's the tax deadline. And I just think because it's like, if you like it yourself and then your family sees you like it, and it just sort of virally sort of spreads on its own.
Ours is more if we post a video of somebody making a cocktail, there's a lot of engagement. Oh, this sounds great. It would be refreshing on a summer day. And some of those are personal, depending on if it's just the cocktail being made or if it's like somebody's face. But I do notice that whenever we post after events, like our 5-year anniversary, we posted photos, people will tag others. And so there's a lot of engagement, like, oh, I saw you went there. No secrets.
So we've kind of changed some of our market. We still do the traditional, you know, dealership, here's a product, here it is for sale. So we still have that because there's still a target market they're looking for. Just, I want to see the product, I want to see the price, is a good price, and then they move on, right? And then there's that other type of customer in the target market that's looking for some type of engagement, where we don't actually try to sell the product, we try to sell a need or a service, and that product, you know, or a benefit of owning this product. So I'm going to use your business for an example. Like, I'm going to sell a date night instead of cocktail. You know what I mean? So same thing I'm using that as an example because it's probably easier to relate to than selling an 18-wheeler. You know, we try to sell reliability, you know, or the relationship that you'll have with our dealer group and the services that we'll provide you if you purchase this product, instead of just, here's this product. So And I've noticed that we've gotten way more engagement out of selling ourselves or something that we can provide you other than just here it is, this is what I have. You know, like the apartments, for instance. Right now, there's somebody having a conversation with their spouse going, I wish we lived in a safer area. So your next ad isn't, hey, we have this nice 1-bedroom apartment for $1,100. Would you like to live in a safer area? That's your next ad. You know, because that's their trigger, that's what they're looking for. They can get the apartment anywhere, but can they get the other thing that they need that's going to trigger? So to answer your question, we get a little bit of both, but way more personal stuff is going to get the engagement.
Yes.
Do any of y'all use hashtags? And if so, tell me. Because I'm confused about this,
So I'm still working on the hashtags, honestly. I hashtag everything, but I mean, finding what's in relation to your business versus what's trending. So there's a lot of things, you know, like 4th of July, of course, that's trending on 4th of July, but it's trending with millions and millions and millions of other posts. You know, somebody who, like me, in my spare time, if I want to look up Wade Bowen and I search that hashtag, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. They've had some concerts. I'm gonna get off on tangents and get even smaller groups. And I notice that I accidentally do that. And so, in my opinion, other customers and other consumers are doing the same thing too. They're not just searching 4th of July, they're searching smaller hashtags, things that are a little more relevant to your business specifically. Like I use Texas Distillery a lot. Well, there's not a lot of distilleries in Texas. I mean, there's less than 500. In a Texas distillery, I feel like somebody in Wisconsin is using Texas Distillery. Getting a really good group of, especially on Instagram, a group of photos that go with distilleries in Texas to look into.
Hashtags they're gonna change as the algorithms of the social media platforms change. Are you on TikTok?
Yeah.
Well, so 6 months ago or so, everyone was hashtagging for you because that algorithm drew people to the page. For you is not working like it used to. You're not getting as many followers on the hashtag for you. So what content creators are doing right now is they're tagging a content creator who has a ton of followers, and it's leading them to their page. So the hashtags are great for you to keep up with how many people have hashtagged your, so hashtag East Texas Truck Center. Now when I go hashtag it, it'll also tell me how many times it's been hashtagged, depending on what platform I'm on. And I go, oh, great, that's been hashtagged 1,000 times. And then I go and do it next week, and it's 1,200. Well, I know I've only hashtagged it 8 or 9 times. So I know that I've generated X amount of hashtags. The algorithms are going to change constantly because we think it's for entertainment. Facebook for my mom is to keep up with her grandkids. Facebook is made to make money. It's to sell business. It's a marketing platform. It's not there so you can keep up with Susie from your high school. I mean, it's a great tool for that, but that's not what they generate for, neither is TikTok. So the algorithms are going to change to drive sales always. So your hashtags are going to change constantly. But like Axel and Rody was saying earlier, I apologize on the name, Jennifer. Branding, you want to use your brands over and over and over again because somebody or a certain saying that you have in your hashtag, because somebody else will try to grab it. So you want to constantly brand in your hashtag, and then you want to find those 4 or 5 that are just trending right now to help you bring followers to your page.
Who else?
I had a question in reference to when you were talking earlier about your retail. Do you retarget those individuals possibly when they hit your site or whatever? And
We do, and I put a geofence on everything. So I even geofence my competitors. So whenever one of my customers goes into, I'll use Rush Truck Center as an example, and he hashtags Rush Truck Center, I know about it. You know, I was here, you know, and it geofences. That's probably the greatest thing about social media for us is versus Taylor mentioned the print ad. We have a print ad too, but it's just so hard to grasp who picked up that paper from the store or that article, or without something, them bringing something tangible back to you. Where if I do any type of social media platform, I can literally narrow it down to gender, age, common interest, geofence it, and then it'll even tell me, we estimate X amount of people are gonna click on this. What's your target? Are you looking for engagement? Are you looking for likes? Are you looking for message? So you can tailor all those things. So to go back to answer your question is, we definitely want to target and retarget. Generally, a sale in our industry doesn't happen on the first opportunity. And we're okay with that. Generally about that 8th or 9th time we're in contact with the customer is when we're actually starting to close the deal. And I teach our sales team to not try to get a young salesman or a team member that works for your business, and they're so eager to just go sell, and close. And sometimes if you want a long-term, well, I'd say sometimes all the time, it's about the relationship. So we're constantly re-engaging, and it's not even re-engaging to try to push a product. It's just once we see someone targeted, they came in, we put all their information in the system. We'll send them an email, a text, or a handwritten letter, just following up. Hey, just checking on you. Hope everything's going well. If you ever need us, we're here for you. And throw in my service manager's business card. So I think that re-engagement is where most companies fail, because they do a really good job posting the ad on the very first time, and they get excited, and all those endorphins go off in the head. They go, oh, wow, look, I had 300 people like my post. What are you going to do with those 300 people that like your post? You have to follow up constantly on that and try to take those people that are engaging with you and turn them into a customer.
And I think the retargeting, depending on what you're selling as well, and he sells a service and a tangible product, and in that way, his repeat customer may come in 2 years. Mine, I see Mary. So a lot of times, it's of course acquiring new customers because you want new faces to come out, but it's seeing that relationship that I have with Mary and going, well, this is an important relationship. I'm going to target my ads towards people who have already came out, spent money, continue to spend money, and retain those people, because that's kind of our bread and butter. Acquiring new customers is great, and like I was telling Scott and Jennifer, we're kind of a tourist stop. We're a tourist destination, so those they come organically, because whenever they search things to do in Nacogdoches, we're on Visit Nac, we're on the Chamber, we're on things like that. But as far as Google goes, we're usually the top 3 things to do. So that I don't really have to spend time into focusing on where we're at in Google placement, because that search engine optimization is there. And that also links back to our social media. If somebody clicks on Tito's and we have an ad running and they go somewhere else and there's Tall Pines Vodka because they're in our area, the geofencing on that is very important. But I will say, as far as like social media ads, we focus a lot on who we already have, who has liked our page, who's visited. We have a lot of people, and I will say in our target audience, you've got to pay attention to what they use on social media. So I'm not going to say that my dad doesn't care about TikTok, but my dad's in his 70s. He doesn't care about TikTok. And I know that there's a lot of people in that 50s, 60s range that come out on Fridays and Saturday nights, and I go, okay, we've got to target them, because this event specifically, this band is going to play more of like their style of music. They're going to love it. There's no point in posting a TikTok reel that's going to take my time away. And if I had an intern, I think that I could utilize for some stuff like that. But as far as like, if I'm going to utilize my time the right way, as far as retargeting, I'm going to target people I already know come and spend money.
That's great. I want to add something you said there, kind of spin it a little bit, and maybe Mary, somebody said earlier. And I know some of the feedback from some previous sessions have been conversation around the amount of time it takes to either the time to do this stuff or the knowledge to do it. Talked about hashtagging and things. So what are some of your challenges or thoughts on some of that? Just so we could, and then we'll attack those, I think.
Well, and you just brought it up, the time it takes. If you're a little towards ADD, you'll be on Facebook, but you'll jump and read other things, and all of a sudden you realize you didn't do what you're supposed to do, time-wise.
You're looking at a cat jumping through a loop.
But it's the time and using the time wisely and what is most important, what do you do first? That's where I called on some of my other property managers to help out there because they are younger and they have a little bit more time, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you tell someone my age or, what's the first thing to do or the most important thing to do all the time to use your time wisely?
I set aside a specific day of the week for social media, and that's because I wear many hats. I have to go, okay, Tuesdays are for distribution. I know I'm going to be on the road with our distributor. So on Mondays, I need to plan out social media, not only for the week and engaging with those tasks. And the thing is, and in the last 4 months, I've slacked, so please don't go look at our social media after this. I had a baby.
Go to our Facebook agency.
Yeah, my Facebook is just, but I will say before that, the engagement back, when customers do comment on your stuff, taking that time to go, I see you, I appreciate you, you know what I mean? Oh, I love that new cocktail, and you reply back, thanks, I hope to see you again. That means a lot, and that customer may go, hey, do all 8 of you guys want to go, they're in a break room, hey, do all 8 of you guys want to go to the distillery this weekend? And I think that means something too in Josh's business and in Jennifer's, just the engagement back with those customers. And again, that's something I've slacked on lately, but I do think it's helpful. It's helpful just as much. I think it's just as important as the post itself is engaging with those comments.
But also, feeding off her is planning is really important, whether you set one day a month to just sit down and do things and figure out what topics, because like with accounting, I'm fortunate I have a service in which I can get most of our content, and so I'm not having to write everything. I'm basically changing it up just a little bit because I'm not the only one that subscribes to this particular content as far as accounting firms go. So if you can find a source where you can get some content that applies to your business that you're not having to write, that helps. Just personalize it to your location, your business, your area that you service. That can help a lot. Plus getting a scheduler, if you're doing it yourself, either spend the money or there's some free ones out there, but get an actual social media scheduler, because that'll save you a ton of time. Because when you sit down that one day a month, you can just do, and then maybe once a week kind of check back in and make sure that your posts are relevant, because maybe something changed or maybe you need to make a slight tweak. But that's another thing that can save time, or you can teach it. Because I wholeheartedly believe in hiring SFA marketing students to help you with that kind of stuff, because they're eager and they're kind of on the forefront, cutting edge of sort of what the technology is.
Especially at the time is a big piece, I think, to match with the expertise too. And I think the follow-up is a stale website or social media presence. And it's in some cases worse than not having one at all. If it's outdated or irrelevant, or if 12 accounting regulations have changed and you've still got misinformation because of neglect, not because of intent. It's pretty critical, and I think it's about the time piece, the budget of the time, but also about finding that if it's not you, who can I get to run that piece? Some people we're talking earlier about the traditional mom and pop business, where that person is they're the head salesperson, they're the accountant, they're the janitor, they're the marketing officer, they are everything. And so you got to know your strengths and weaknesses and be honest with yourself too, and say, okay, is there somebody, where can I find that? Because I'm not good at that, so I need someone who is, and try to find that person.
There's a ton of marketing that happens on the couch in the middle of the baseball game, you know, watching the TV. I'll sit down and do a whole ad, and then I go in and schedule it. Because I know that my audience, they're clicking on it between, you know, this time and this time. And your audience may be looking on Sunday afternoon, where mine may be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So you can go in there and schedule ads. You don't have to make the ad right then and click post, you know, and it's just automatically there. You can actually schedule a release time for it. So I bet you do a lot of marketing. I do. Every night I'm sitting in my office, who are you on the phone? Just 5 more minutes, I promise. Just 5 more minutes, I'm almost done. Schedule it, and it'll come out the next day, you know, so.
Do any of y'all use like Hootsuite to do it, or do you just do like the planner on Facebook and for Instagram or what?
I used it for a little bit, and I used the preview app, which was based for Instagram, so you can kind of look at your Instagram layout. Because there for a little bit, it was very trendy to have a cool little aesthetic on Instagram. But, you know, it's one of those things, is it worth the money covering the cost each month, or is it, okay, let's post and let's use the planner on Facebook? And I will say, it's not really a set it and forget it. So sometimes you can plan it out and then you go, oh, I forgot it's Blueberry Festival. Not really, but you know, I forgot it's Blueberry Festival. I have no blueberry. I need to put a cocktail in there. So sometimes I use scheduler, sometimes I don't. A lot of times it's using an old school planner and going, I should post this here, here, and here.
Again, it's finding what works for you
It works for me.
and then setting that as group.
I mean, about how much time a day, week do you spend, and do you primarily use organic, or how much of the paid services do you use?
I use a lot of the paid service for events because I know that those are what's gonna draw somebody to our business. And then as far as like just, if I'm just posting a photo or a drink recipe or something like that, a lot of times I don't use any of that because I know whoever is visiting our page, usually from the event, is going to see that anyways. But I usually do set aside 1 day a week, at least for scheduling and kind of looking at future, okay, what in my business, it makes sense for events. You know, what events are we going to host in the next 3 to 4 months? Should we post it right now to get some engagement, or are people going to forget about it by the 3 to 4 months? Because the thing is, there is such a thing as posting it too soon. You know, if Josh has a new product coming out in November, does he want to post about it right now? Probably not, unless it's a pre-order type thing, because he doesn't want to get people excited and then mad that they can't get it until November. And Scott and I were talking, we are in today's day and age of right now. I want it right now. I want Amazon Prime 2-day shipping, and everything's instant gratification. So I think relevancy, as far as like whenever I'm sitting there planning, okay, what's relevant right now? What can I post this month, next month that makes sense for right now? But I spend about a day a week.
Okay, that's what I was gonna hit that.
About a day a week.
And I probably don't spend a day a week because, like I said, since I'm not writing content so much, the stuff I get, I sit down probably half a day, twice a month, look at what their new content is, you know, sort through it, try to decide how to repurpose it, you know, for us on the knowledge side. And then, you know, about once, twice a week, you know, I can sit down, and if I have like a thing happening at the office that's more organic that I want to, you know, put out there, like we just hired somebody or we just went to an event. So, you know, it's probably 4 hours a week ish, you know, for what I do, and maybe sometimes more if I'm trying to plan it out a little bit further. So, but I always check it to make sure.
We moved into full-time marketing director. So about 6 months ago, I brought on a full-time marketing director. And plus I'd spend probably 2 hours a week just filling in gaps where I see where maybe there's an immediate need real quick, and instead of, you know, delegating somebody to do it, I'll just go knock it out myself. And then I've actually added my sales team to all of my pages. So my salesmen even have the right to, or to go and create content, put it on our page as well. So I bet you we have about 50 to 60 hours a week put into marketing. But I'm the guy that believes that marketing is probably the most essential thing you can do for your business. Like, I believe.
A couple people probably saying amen.
If people do not know who you are, where you are, and what you provide, then they're not gonna choose you. They're not gonna know you exist. So we focus on marketing all day, every day. And that's one of the things I send out emails pretty much every week. What's your content plan this week? Even to my sales team. I'll ask that question before I go, hey, what deals are you working on? Because I know if they're marketing, not just the dealership but themselves,
The deals are coming.
the deals are coming. Yeah. So marketing is probably the most essential thing we can do. We go to shows, we do all the vendor booths, we have we do the racing, we do the truck show side, anywhere where I can just potentially tell a customer who I am, what I provide, and have the opportunity to earn their business. We believe.
There occasionally TikTok is to me a very visual, utilizes video, definitely engaging. I know some organizations and our clients that may be interested in doing TikTok. I don't typically discourage them, but I just let them know that TikTok is a very, very engaging platform. And if you get out there on TikTok, you need to be consistent because your goal is obviously to increase followers. That's the purpose of it, right? But you don't want to have TikTok and have nothing on it. But interesting that when I start saying that, I think people, like you said, marketing is work. They don't realize the amount of work it requires to produce the amount of content to be on TikTok, especially if that's part of the demographic that you're targeting. What are your thoughts on, as a pros? Yeah, I encourage you to do TikTok, even though you probably know it's not in this interest, because once you start that is a heavy load, way more so than Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, video content takes a ton of time.
Yeah. From a customer standpoint,
Well, so we'll go to target demographic first. So if I have a brand new fleet of trailers coming in, the very first place I'm posting that ad is LinkedIn. Because I found that my business owners, or my large fleet owners, they stay on the professional side of the services. That's where that ad's going to go first. If I was going to have a used truck, I go to Facebook. That's where my owner operators hang out all day long. If I'm trying to hire a mechanic, I do TikTok. Because they're watching those 20-second clips all day long. So then I start doing TikToks in my shop. And cool place to work type stuff. So every platform has it's a different target audience right now. It's really split. I mean, your LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok, I would say is almost, and there's some crossover between Facebook and TikTok, especially now that Facebook's starting to do the small reels, kind of like TikTok. So you go to one place and still get those 20-second funny interactions. But to answer your question from my perspective, it really depends on your customer, who you're talking to, on which content they need to focus on the most. Video takes the most time. And it is the most engaging. It can't be a long video. It's got to be short.
Yeah, that's one of my guilty pleasures. I actually, to Wayne, I play Candy Crush, and I'll go to TikTok. And I'll find myself an hour and a half videos on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, what did I just do?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of 30-second clips.
Yeah.
And so,
That's why I was curious, because I think organizations and businesses that are curious about it, it would potentially benefit them, because from an advertising standpoint, I don't know if that platform, I would find that, I'm not sure, let me say it this way. I'm looking at it because I find it entertaining and engaging. Potentially anyone who's advertising there would trigger a top of mind awareness that when I saw it later, I'm gonna come back around to it. I'm not actually going there to look for something there's an opportunity.
So I'll use something that a marketing director came to me, and we hired her. She works for me now. But one of her biggest pitches was TikTok and all these things. And I'm like, man, I just don't have the time to sit here and do all this content. And she's like, well, give me 1 week in your office. And if you feel like I can create enough content for you, then let me have the opportunity to earn the job. Thought that was a very fair deal. I thought it was very brave of her. So I said, all right, bring your camera, bring your things, let's go work. And all she did for that whole week was just go around and video things during the interaction. She created a YouTube channel in that time frame, which is your long film. And then she started taking excerpts out of all of her little clips and started pitching this one to TikTok, this one to Facebook, and step down. So if you had a customer, instead of trying to go to them and go, let's make TikTok, let's just make longer footage and then take excerpts out of that and start branching them into those 30-second videos. We were talking earlier, you can go spend a day at a customer's office. If it was a scheduled day like Jennifer does, Taylor does, then they can come in, they can do all their stuff in one day, and you can schedule these things out. You can fill up 2-3 months in a day, pretty quick.
So I hired a content creator last month, and she is going to work through December, kind of on a contract basis, just to see if I like what she's giving us. It is a local photography studio, but I'm seeing that, number one, they have the eye for what people are looking for. They are better at taking photos and videos than I am. But also, my first TikTok took me like 3 hours to create. I feel like I have better use of my time. And don't get me wrong, I understand what people are looking for, like Josh. My mind, I know that what I'm good at is, okay, I know that TikTok, people are gonna really wanna see drink recipes on there. It's people who are looking for mixology and, oh, this is a cool cocktail. It's not us droning on about what we're doing at the distillery, unless it's quick, fast. Here's how we empty barrels, that kind of thing. I think as far as like the TikTok thing goes, I do still see it continuing to be popular and, like you said, engaging. It is beneficial, but I guess some of those clients see if it's really beneficial to them, because that is a lot of hours spent. A lot of hours.
Because I know with us right now, I haven't figured out a way how we could benefit from TikTok because, again, financial services are one of those really interesting places, and 80% of our business is referral business. People just don't go to TikTok to find an accounting firm. I mean, it's not, and then I don't know how I could do like a short 20-second video to really get our value across to people maybe that might need, because we were talking earlier, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you don't realize that hiring us might save you 20 hours a week, but how do you get that across to somebody in a 20-second TikTok? It's one of those things that you have to look at what you're selling and who your audience is, and like kind of where you're getting the most of your business now, and see if that's work, because it is a big, huge time investment. I mean, it really is.
What I found interesting, because I do serve it 3-4 times a week, hopefully not an hour and a half, but I think that ads are being served to me is based on my likes and dislikes from Facebook ads. Facebook and so forth. So that algorithms will figure out who I am. And through that process, the served to me or from the TikTok platform would fit things that I would be interested in. So potentially it is a good investment, even though I probably be the typical, this is what I'm advertising to stick to, but the retargeting component based on once TikTok picks up on who I am seems to be pretty relevant. But it adds on that seems to be, even if it's a national ad, I see more.
And then
local ads, like they don't venture that direction yet. National ones, that's what me. They come to me now.
But they probably are spending a ton of money to do that too. So then it comes down to like
There's
what
only a
your
few
average
content
is.
creators in Nacogdoches that have over 100,000 followers. And if you go to those guys, so we have 30,000 followers. Facebook, I think we're at 36,000. And you ask them, how did you get to 100,000? They all have a full-time guy that literally walks around and films them all day long. And half their TikToks aren't even about their business. It is just almost like a reality TV show, but they're constantly staying in front of people and getting engagement, because out of sight is out of mind. And you ask them, how does TikTok help your business? And they'll tell you that. It's because I'm staying in front of these guys all the time. So I'm relevant. It's not that, oh man, I posted this ad and I got such a great response. It's literally someone sitting around in this room and they're thinking about a product. They go, hey, did you see that dude the other day on TikTok? He does that. Oh, really? What's his name? I mean, that's really how the TikTok thing is, it's just being relevant. It's just constantly popping up on people's pages. But they have full-time guys that follow them around too. And that's one of the reasons we hired someone full-time, was just out of sight is out of mind. We want to constantly engage.
What are some other things that we want to get? I mean, we've got, like I said, we've got plenty of things to cover, but I also want to get what you're wanting. How you use it. I'd say,
How do y'all use Twitter? That is the one I just don't. I don't.
If I use it, I push them back to our blog. Like if I were to do it, I would do a short little clip and say, hey, read more, and then I just basically push them to our blog. That's about.
Twitter's like sports to me. Like it's not
Yeah.
sports or news. It's not as much about.
Twitter's turned into where people that are famous have an opportunity to post how they feel. Instead of a business.
Gossip to me.
Right, instead of a business. You still utilize it just because it's there and it's not complicated. But the ads are different too. I mean, it's verbiage. It's pretty easy to just go in there and throw it out there. And just maybe that one or two guys sees it, that's what they, because I know he's on Twitter all the time. Porch, yeah. You know, so it really just depends on who you're trying to target. Every platform has a different.
Let's spin off of that, because that's one of the things that is on your target audience. And I know from some of the previous feedback that it's already gotten this, just trying to figure out who your target audience is. And so how do you, from whether it's website or social media sites, whatever, identifying that target? You've all hit on it a little bit in different things, whether it's the band you've got, so okay, that's demographics here, or Josh, you specifically mentioned if it's a used truck, this is kind of your market. So maybe, what is it? How do you identify that market?
Well, we'll just talk about Facebook. It does it for you. When you post an ad, you can be specific all the way down to the age, zip code, gender, common interest. I go and put keyword, and then you keep data like, did this ad produce what I wanted to do? No, it didn't. All right, let's change this algorithm. Let's go ahead and do men and women, and then, all of a sudden we got a ton of hits. All right, let's get rid of men. Let's just do women. Well, we got way more hits. Well, there's a $3 million for this ad. This is, so it's really time, to find out who your demographic is or what ad worked. Isn't going to be the first time you post that. It's going to be the 30, you just kind of chip away at it. And you find out over time which ones are working for you. I don't think there is a platform that'll tell you, Facebook will tell you you got this many clicks, this many engagements, things like that. So they do their best to try to help the consumer see where their money was spent on marketing. That's probably the biggest thing with marketing. It's just so hard to for a business owner to go, all right, so I just paid $15,000 to go to a truck show. No one bought anything at the truck show. Did I lose $15,000? No, because 8 months later, a guy came in and bought a trailer that was for $300K because he met my guy at the truck show. So marketing is like really hard to just grasp how much you spend and what your ROI is where I'm going with it. And Facebook tries to give you, like this was how many people responded, this is the ages, this was their locations. So they try to do that. And then some other marketing platforms do the same thing. We use truck paper. And I thought it was really interesting. A few years ago, oil field was really busy in Pennsylvania. And we started seeing a huge uptick in sales. And I went and pulled all the reports where my phone calls were coming from. And they were all coming from the Northeast. And I'm all the way down here in Texas, and they were looking for trucks not covered in salt crust. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't paying for this service to try to find out where all of my stuff is coming from. We pay for every phone call to be recorded and tracked. I want to know where they're coming from. And then that phone service, there's another service on top of that. They can tell me their age, their gender, and really break it down to where I can even get the business's information and find out their fleet size and go on and go on. So to go back to the social media platform part, it's just hard to grab it in the very first 2 or 3 ads. It's just gonna have to be something you chip away and pay attention to figure out. There's not a real program that'll tell you exactly who you hit and who responded other than Facebook. I think that's the only one that's doing it right now in social media. TikTok doesn't even tell you that.
Facebook, you can go all the way down to what people drink.
Yep.
And a couple other things is if you have a website, you can look at your Google Analytics and Google will break it down and show you like the demographics, what kind of computer people are using, what iOS they're on or what OS they're on. I mean, there's a lot of demographic information that you can get from your website if you're tracking through Google to kind of figure out at least who's visiting, who's visiting you. I mean, the other thing you can do is look at your customer base, look at the people that are already doing business with you, and you can break them out and you can figure out like, are they business owners or are they, small mom and pops, or are they big businesses? I mean, you can look at kind of, the majority of the people that you're at and say, okay, well, I already know I'm attracting, men in their 50s. I mean, you can just look at your own customer base and make some, guesses about how to then do your social media, because not that you wouldn't want to reach new customers, but that could be like your, where you start. And then as you add in other things, you can kind of see how they do over time.
We do that a lot by just paying attention to who walks in the door. Who walks in the door, what they're interested in. Know what you're in.
Who uses Google Alerts?
I do.
Talk about that for those that don't.
So Google Alerts is, it's basically a platform put out by Google. Anytime someone searches your name, mentions your business, reviews, it automatically sends you a notifier that someone's talking about you.
I know our webpage was viewed 7,000 times last month.
Right.
It popped up on my phone.
The other thing.
It helps you with Google optimization too, which is important to try to work your way towards the top.
But the other thing you can do with Google Alerts is if for yourself, if you want to track a trend or something, you can like send alerts to yourself about certain topics and certain subjects. And then you'll see, like they give you a weekly summary of like these things being mentioned. So if you want to track something, you can use it to track different things going on in your business or your industry.
So I have a question, if you have any advice on posting to not sell. You don't really have anything to sell, right? If you're coming to NACO just to develop something, you're gonna look at our website, you're gonna call our website, you're gonna do that, right? You're not looking us up on Instagram. That is a portion of who looks at our Instagram, sure, but overall, the people that look at our Instagram are people who are trying to get to come to job fairs, who want to come to this event, right? So if y'all have any tips on, I guess, like what else do you post? Like, come to our job fair today, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a trailer or a cocktail or something that I can post saying, check out this special we're running, right? You see what I mean?
You don't have anything fun?
Usually post tips. I know that's successful for a lot of people. Tips. For my business, tips don't really work, but I see it all the time, tips don't get me right.
Tip. Yeah. I'll tee this up because something you can hit it hard because you touched on earlier. It's selling. I actually wrote it down. Selling an experience. Yeah, I think that's a big
Success story?
Yeah.
Have someone that's been to an event like this who maybe didn't want to come here and they came anyway, they learned something from it and it worked. Go back and find that person. That's going back to the, re-engaging with them, find out, post that. Go, hey, we got an event coming up. Here's a success story from someone who was at our 2021 event.
Success story.
That would be fun. You know what I mean? Because then they can relate to that person.
You could also, in the same vein, you could do a business profile. Of the business that you brought to your business.
Yeah.
You could do one.
I would say don't count out like when business owners are on Instagram looking to locate packages, because you never know.
Or if you offer services that maybe local people don't know about, or like I think you were talking about a grant earlier, there was some grant information, any kind of informational stuff that people might not find out another way. if you can be the go-to source for that kind of thing, they'll start following you. And that's kind of like the same industry we're in. We're in an information, you know, we want to show that, yes, we can help your business. We're going to give you some of this information, you know, but if you don't know how to deal with that, then hey, give us a call and we'll help you. You know, it's one of those things where we're not really selling anything. We're showing that we can be of value to a potential customer and our current customers.
Can you speak a little bit more on your event marketing? Because like I'm on y'all's text feeds. I know you're doing.
Well, the text work, I will say, text messages have a 99.9% open rate. So people are going to read the text messages. So that works for us, obviously, in the event world. Like, people know that, you know, Joe Bowyer is playing Saturday and we're having Cossaville Bayou. They like knowing that. And they may have already had their plans and they go, you know what, we're not going to go this time, but we're going to go next week. So I do love text marketing. But I will say on event planning, like I said, if you go too far out, you've kind of lost, you get that initial reaction, but then people either make plans or they lose interest. So you don't want to post too far in advance. Like, obviously, we're not posting about Blueberry Festival next year. That just happened. But we are worrying about things that are happening in August, September. On Instagram, I will say I'm going to start shifting our Instagram maybe with reels for events versus like on Facebook. Obviously, we use the events tab and that works for us. I mean, there's some events we'll reach 1,300 interested organically, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not mad about that. That's incredible. But as far as Instagram, they don't have the events tab, so you've got to find a way to reach people on Instagram. But I think I'm going to start utilizing reels for that, what we have upcoming. But I will probably take clips from this year's event for future planning, because I don't see the videos going away. I just see them evolving in a different way. But they also have some great templates on there. So I will say, don't count out like me. I do feel like a dinosaur. I'm almost 30. My little sister, she's 25. She knows how to work TikTok. I don't. Templates, use them because they're a lot faster. So you never know.
I think a great piece of what you said there is capturing things, pictures, videos, and things, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to use them at that moment.
Just capture it for
You
next
have
year.
those things to go back and utilize when you do have that moment. You're sitting on the couch watching a ball game and you see an ad, something you're like, I can do that. We're a copycat world, right? I mean, we are, but when you see things that work and we all do them, and then somebody creates TikTok because, you know, the other thing was overdone.
You just reminded me that it's true what you just said, because the commercial that's out now about, like, I learned it on TikTok with the deboning a chicken wing or doing the pepper thing, you know, you identify with it. It sticks, it's stuck. You just made me think of it. Yeah.
And so I think, you know, just engaging people is a huge takeaway. I think from this, I think it's just how do you create that experience on social media or your website or whatever it is, and engage people and get them, like Rick and I talked some about the paper. So all these things that we're talking about, the people, you can quantify, you know, that's what these search engine marketing basically we're trying to do, because for years, whether it was a billboard or an ad in the paper, whatever, it's hard for your marketing or your CFO to be able to say what return did we get on that. So that's been I'm sure a battle for, you know, newspapers and stuff, forever. But one of the things we've talked about, I know at times, from the engagement piece is people like to see pictures of their kids in the paper or on different things. And so, you know, they may not really care that the T-ball Yankees beat the T-ball Diamondbacks 8-7, but little Jimmy's picture was in the paper and it was really cute, and they're gonna tweet up. And so I think there's ways to utilize that stuff that then they do read, you know, the articles that are with them, but that's what got them, you know. And so what does it take to grab that person, and consistency, I think, is a key. That's the tough part. And I think maybe kind of what I was saying, you can't do this part-time every once in a while just when the feeling hits you right. I mean, there's a consistency piece that I think is extremely important, which is a big part of what you were talking about there. If you're not going to devote time to it, a stable presence is probably worse than none at all, because it can get you in a bind, I think. You're not relevant.
So this is in reference to YouTube channel. One or two, you have a YouTube channel? Okay. My question is, do you promote your YouTube channel? I know my kid house there now, you build every time people build websites, they hope you get to it and work like that. And they go, website didn't work.
Our YouTube channel's new, so we don't promote it right now. We're trying to get more content on it, kind of fill it up a little bit, so when people go and they get excited about the YouTube channel, if they went and looked at it right now, they'll be like, that's not good, right? But we'll start getting some content built on it, so when they do go, they go, oh, this looks cool, I'll follow, I'll subscribe.
So once you get it populated, then you're going to promote it.
Then I'll promote it.
I think it's a great point. If you're looking at one thing or two things out there, one of them was 3 months ago, you know, you probably, we're in such a, where you move on that, you probably never go back again, but if you can look and kind of, say 20 videos or something, you can.
I generally don't mention it, so, you know, this is one of the first places, but it's relevant here. You know, so just because you build an ad, I probably have 30 ads right now on my TikTok that are in, I can only see them myself. You know, and I'm just waiting for the right time to go. You know, like, so I have an event coming up, Stony Hill Road, Dragon Pool in October. And we have 60 something ads built for it right now, but it's too early to start talking about it. So we've agreed that once a week, we'll just post the event to somewhere little. And then that last 30 days, we're just going to smoke down social media. It'll probably be the only thing you see.
One of the things I also think about YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine out there, obviously. And using that as a tool, people utilize a YouTube channel that, you know, since that's the second largest.
Yeah, it just has
Bing.
Bing.
Huge tool.
It has Bing. So that's the reason that we started utilizing it, because, so they use the same deal like Google optimization. YouTube's starting to do the same thing. So you want to be one of the top content creators. And then television's gotten so Wi-Fi, everyone's starting to go to YouTube TV and things like that. And TikTok and Facebook Reels have made it where your ads almost have to be videos, or people aren't engaging. Oh, there's a picture. Next. Picture next. I want to see something, you know, engaging. So I think the YouTube stuff that's coming, I don't think it's here yet for small business, but it's starting to become more relevant.
That's the next one. Yes.
It is.
For the small businesses and mid-size, you get ahead of the curve on that.
I think so too.
I will say, I didn't consider this, obviously this is not necessarily the engaging social media, it does, but don't count out Pinterest for things, because people use it as a search engine, believe it or not. And then once somebody told me that, I realized that I do it too. You know, if I want to learn how to make an old school, you know, and I click on that, not only do they have, it went from a photos platform to now it's got its own form of reels. And I will say that no matter what the business is, just find what fits it, because you never know. Like Pinterest, I'm like, I can see where that would work for my business. You know, Dennis Taylor across the street does collectible cars. He uses Pinterest for motorcycles. I saw him doing it the other day, and I'm like, wow, I would never thought a man would use that for motorcycles, but okay. You know, things that I didn't see as a search engine are search engines.
Barbara, I'm sitting in a spot where I actually can't see the clock, so if we start to run low on time.
You got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
And I have a question I want you to talk about. I do the Chamber's Education Committee Facebook page, so it's very limited, narrow thing, and like right now, I have really very little to post. So I will share like things that are going on in Nacogdoches, or if there's something on the university going, you know, educational wise, I will share it. So what is that good, bad, or should I share things as much as I do, or should I limit the amount of other people's posts I share?
Personally, I share things about once a week, and it's usually from Visit Nacogdoches, their what's happening calendar.
That's what I
relevant
share.
things. I think that helps everybody, but I will say I don't post it. I post it once a week whenever they post it.
Mhm.
So I know that there's some social media pages where you scroll and you're looking for their content and it's a lot of shares. And I get frustrated. I'm like, never mind. But their social media is not working.
I would find something else and just maybe post once a week and keep it very minimal. Because I mean, even once a week is consistency.
Okay.
As opposed to, if you can't do whatever they tell you, there's some things that say, oh, you've got to post 3 times a week here, da, 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 there. But I mean, as long as you're posting once a week on the same day, people will get into that rhythm, and that matters more probably than, oh, I've got to post 3 times a week.
I have
here.
one thing I post every Monday, except for, of course, it didn't happen this Monday, but I do have something I post every Monday automatically. So that's great.
I think part of knowing your audience, what are their expectations? Like it's that's sometimes hard to know, but is it one that's where you are looking for, what is that business supposed to be, but you can't even get to what they're posting because they share literally everything that comes across social media. That could get lost.
And if it's important and maybe education related, that might be a good share. Since you're on that committee, if it's something from somewhere else that could be valuable to that audience, that would be a good share.
Something I was gonna say, just because we try to be like supporting everyone right now or what we're promoting, is I've kind of transitioned, especially on Instagram, into sharing other people's stuff from the story, like solely, and then keeping our feed, what we're promoting. And I feel like that's kind of working. Facebook stories are a different world that I'm not totally, familiar with. But I noticed them only being there 24 hours, you easily, okay, let's go check out what the chamber said, but then you still can go to our feed, kind of see the overlap without being overwhelmed by that. I don't know if that's a good way to do it, but that's what I'm doing.
So we have an idea, if my content creator or director of marketing, she ever feels like she's slow, we promote our team. That's what we utilize as a gap fill. So we'll go and, we can always do the happy birthdays, or if we're just slow on content that week, we'll do something about one of our technicians in the shop. Come and see so-and-so, he's been doing this for so long, X amount of time, and then post a picture of him and his family or something like that. We found that that's great for engagement, but what we've really found is that the team member is proud to be promoted. You know what I mean? And kind of gives them a sense of ownership in the business. And right now, employment retention is at an all-time must because it's just so hard to find replacements. So if you're ever slow on content, I would encourage you to market maybe a member of the chamber, or if you have a business, a team member at your business, if you're ever slow and just need something, instead of promoting what you do, who you are, what you're trying to sell, or you're actually doing who you are and promoting one of your team members. Just an idea if you ever get a guy.
Or even a committee member, if they'll let you do it, that could be a good way to highlight.
I've tried that. I've emailed them. I want to, promote you. Send me something about yourself. I think 2 people did. Give me a quote.
I think it goes back to kind of archiving pictures and photos data, so that when you do have slow times, that's when you launch that thing out. Because you may not have it. You'd be like, oh, everybody's out of the office, I can't highlight some of that. I should have done that last week.
I actually have a file that says to be posted, so that I do kind of keep some things. Some of the things I'll do is like if it's a special day, I'll look those up and put, something in, something just about that. As long as it's around, educated, it's something about education,
What do we need to know? What do you want to make?
I've got a lot.
Whoever you hire for marketing is very good. It takes a lot of time to promote any one business. So if the person you're hiring to market is also a manager, because you said you have multiple, you can't expect them to give you just a ton of content if they have a 40-hour gig on top of it. So I know you said you were here to find out what they do and kind of how to tailor your expectations. And I noticed that you triggered on time. It takes a lot of time to do it quality. Back in the day, maybe everyone in here pretty much is an expert in marketing. I mean, everyone works for a marketing firm except for a few. back in 2010, there wasn't a ton of marketing directors unless they were at larger, bigger firms. But now even your smaller stores and your family-owned businesses, they're all looking for a marketing director or content creator because the game has changed so much. Because they've realized, just like I did and Taylor and Axel and Rose, when they hired her, it's just not a lot of time. I mean, it takes time to build quality content. So if you're breaking it down to 3 or 4 of your staff members, maybe it's a little easier. But if you're looking for quality, it's something that you just have to stop and really invest.
And like she and I utilize maybe an SFA intern.
Mm-hmm.
I use one almost every semester, but I use a lot of hospitality and tourism. And I think that I should shift that probably more towards marketing, or maybe take on 2 interns for that reason. They are paid interns, but they don't necessarily have to be paid. But I do think that you get a little more quality, and people are excited to do their job when they are paid.
And they utilize it to
You never
build.
know. I mean, there could be somebody who's looking for a money per post, and there are people out there who create content for individual posts. So you never know.
And sometimes with the students, some of them might need a class credit, and they can use that as a class credit, even if you can't afford to pay them, you know, if you agree to do it so they can get class credit sometimes. You know, you might get them for a semester, but I mean, that gives you a little bit of something.
One of the biggest things that I hope you take away from this is the piece built around that it's not just, here's a product I'm selling, here's how much it costs, go buy it. You know, talk about financial services, I'm a banker, but you know, there's a CPA firm too. There's nothing sexy about that. I mean, we're all selling the same thing. I mean, checking accounts, and they're all saying, yeah, you could post about a special rate on a CD or on a loan or whatever. But I think people really, they'll scroll through that so fast that they'll never even slow down. But you highlight one of your staff members and something that they're doing, you know, or a customer or whatever. And sometimes that's a, you know, taxi thing, you know, there, but that's what's going to get people to stop. And so you're advertising to them, and you're getting, so when they do have a, you know, a loan need or whatever, you're on the top of their mind. And it had nothing to do with you posting about your home loan. It was because there was something creative on there that caught their attention and made them stop. Maybe about an employee or a customer, or just something going on in the community, something to make them stop. And so to me, that's a huge takeaway that I hope that you got out of this, is it's not just put your product out there for sale, here's the price, and go get it. There's a lot more of the engagement side, and we touched a couple on the branding, really who you are. And that's the thing in the financial services business, things like that, that's what we have to sell, right? Is who we are. You know, and so I think that's the same thing for Josh and for Taylor, for Jennifer. I mean, we're all in that same boat, is you know, find what works, and you're gonna fail. Sometimes you're gonna might put an ad out there, and it's gonna get like a lead balloon, you know. But just don't be discouraged from it. Just okay, something else. There's analytics out there now that'll, like Josh said, that'll help you be good at it.
Some of those that are failing, you stop them before they get to that final ad spin. I'm like, oh, it's not
If it's doing this, it's like, oh.
5 people.
There's differences about promoting a product or promoting an event. You know, that's usually when I'm going to front Porch's social media stuff. So I'm looking for a reason to go, not just to go buy a bottle. I want to go have the experience. I'm going to buy one while I'm there, but I really want to go, you know, what food truck's going to be there, you know, and you know, what band or whatever. I mean, just people use it for so many different ways, and you can't be all things to everybody. But those sources, those tools help you, you know, aim more of a rifle shot. What do we miss? What do you find? We got
Well,
maybe a minute or
I
two.
have one real quick thing, because he's, we were talking about ROI and like, how do you measure anything you would put like in print or on a billboard? And I know this sounds really interesting because everybody's probably forgotten about it, but QR codes seem to have made a comeback. And that can be a way that if you do put something in print, you can assign a specific QR code. So if somebody goes to you off that QR code, you can do some tracking and some analytics on it. I know we're kind of using that right now for our recruiting team is, when we're saying, hey, we're hiring and we're handing out things to students, we're hoping that to come apply for us, they'll click on the QR code, they'll scan that and go to our website that way and go apply that way. So then we can kind of get an idea of how our recruiting fairs are doing. It's not perfect, but it's another option, because I know QR codes were big at one time and then everybody kind of like dropped them like a hot rock, but they've sort of kind of made a comeback. And that could be something you guys consider using.
Well, I would just wrap up and saying, I think selling experience in your brand, not necessarily just the product that you make or the service that you provide. I think that's a huge, if I was taking something, that's literally what I wrote down, that I didn't have in my notes before we started. And so I would say that, and kind of wrapping up, I really want to thank first the Chamber for putting this together and getting you guys here, and Nedco certainly for Mayor Francis for getting me here. But importantly, I don't know of anything about this, but thanks to Josh and the Chamber for spending their time. As you can see, they've got a lot of, this is time they could have been putting together social media. We could have had TikTok videos, but they chose to spend their time, trying to help our community and you. And so for that,
We're gonna make a TikTok with that camera when we're done.
that's what they do. So just want to recognize and thank them for coming.